Good evening. Today I will be speaking about the defense and the rebuttal of abortions today. With that being said, the two major philosophical arguments that we're going to talk about is one that was written by Judith Thomas and the other was by Don Marquis. So with that being said, some quick rundowns of the chapter summary would be that Thompson argues that abortion is morally permissible, even if we have to assume that fetus is a person. She uses the examples and experiences of being hooked up to a violinist for the rest of your life and say that you're the only person who has to save their life. Would you be morally wrong to kill that person or not? And she kind of explores that example. So I will be explaining both of their points and then sharing my own perspective on each of these materials. So as I said, um, Judith kind of argues that her violinist analogy, you wake up connected to a violinist who needs her body to survive for 9 months. You didn't choose this. She asks, are you morally obligated to stay hooked up? And with that being said, that kind of ties into the whole abortion analogy and how different it would be to carry someone's life and then have to kill it. Would you be morally wrong or would you be accepting depending on the circumstances? So Marquise, on the other hand, argues that abortion is morally wrong, flat out. He says that it deprives the fetus of a valuable future. He basically says that fetus is a person from the moment of conception. And me personally, I just don't believe that because a fetus is like Thompson had said. She had stated in the article that fetus is just a clump of cells right now. And that is true in my opinion. I know that abortion is a very sensitive topic, but I do believe that that part is true. That the fetus is not a person at the moment of contraception. Um, so that was kind of the rundown of the chapter summary. Some ethical dilemmas raised in these types of situations are number one, the right to life versus the bodily autonomy. So it says, is a fetus's potential life more important than a woman's right to control her body? That was kind of also what Thompson was also saying in her arguments that she had brought up. I do apologize, I am a little tired. So I do want to give that disclaimer. But she does say that, um, Thompson argues that our bodily right as a woman should come first rather than the fetus carrying um, rather than the fetus that we're carrying, because without the life of the mother, the fetus cannot survive at all. So, in my opinion, I do believe that a woman's right does obviously come first, before the fetus. Number two, future value versus present reality. Marquis says that the fetus's future matters greatly. But what about the mother's present situation, financial strain, mental health, safety, that sort of thing? This is a really good argument because, as said before, he does say that the fetus's future matters greatly, but what about the moms? What is she gonna have to deal with? What if she is not in a situation that fully respects her privacy or fully respects her safety? She could be in a dangerous situation, and then on top of all that, she's pregnant, you know? And you definitely don't want to deal with that when it comes to certain situations. So that was kind of an ethical dilemma that was brought up. Um, consent and responsibility. A lot of people argue that just because you are consenting to sex, you are asking for the pregnancy or you are automatically responsible for the pregnancy. In some situations, if two consenting adults have sex, then yes, in my opinion, if you guys are both financially stable, if you guys are both two regular adults with two apartments, two cars, whatever may have you, if you guys are both in a safe environment, then yes, I do believe that you are 100% responsible for that sort of for the pregnancy. So now we are going to take at the critical looks at both of these arguments. So the Thompson argument, she challenges the assumption that a fetus's right to live um, outweighs a mother's bodily, hold on, challenges the assumption that that a fetus's right to live always outweighs a mother's bodily autonomy. She uses the violinist thought experiment to argue that even if a person is a fetus, it doesn't have a right to use the mother's bodily against her will. So, a couple of strengths and weaknesses on these arguments. Main strength that I want to talk about is that it focuses on the real world complexities like rape, failed birth control, and unwanted pregnancy, while also stating that that fetus does not have a right to just be in the mother's bodily against her will. Um, that is mainly what I sided with in these agreements because as a woman, I do feel like we have the right to live first because I mean, it is our body. And we do have the right to do what we believe is best for ourselves. And if what we believe is morally right, then by all means. But with that being said, some critics also argue that she never fully understands when abortion becomes morally wrong, especially in later term pregnancy. She doesn't really address that. In my personal opinion, I do believe that abortion is right until it becomes a point of wrongness. And what I mean by that is I want to say an abortion is wrong at least 6 months after contraception. So what I mean by that is when a woman is 6 months into her pregnancy, then I believe that there should be no abortion at that point in time because whether you knew about the pregnancy or not, this baby has developed in your body for over or at least 6 months, at least 5 months. Um, it has characteristics, it has a mouth, head, legs at that point. So, in my opinion, I do believe at that point you are killing a human being. So, with that being said, that kind of does go into Marquise's argument. He believes that abortion is immoral because it takes away a future from the fetus. Now, the only thing that I disagree with that is he keeps saying from the fetus. He doesn't say from the actual baby. He means from the moment of contraception, and that I believe is wrong. Says that he avoids religious arguments and focuses on the value of future human experiences. A couple strengths that he um, does have in this argument is he makes the issue personal by comparing abortion to a killing an adult with a promising future. Some weaknesses is he doesn't consider how pregnancy impacts the mother physically, emotionally, or mentally, and doesn't fully address the consequences or address the cases of rape or severe hardships. With that being said, I do believe that that was a couple weaknesses that he did have in those arguments. He was so focused on a a fetus is a fetus is a person, never on the mother specifically, never on what could happen in some cases where you may not always have that choice, you know? And I have friends who are mothers, so that is one thing that I always try and make sure when I speak to them is how are you guys doing? How is the mother doing? Because the mother is just as important as the baby. You cannot take care of a baby if you cannot take care of yourself. So that is one thing that I feel like a lot of people miss when a lot of people are anti-abortionist or pro-life, I believe it's called. Because I'm that kind of person where honestly, if you think the best choice for you is to have an abortion, then by all means, I would definitely help you out and I would definitely support you. But in this critical analysis, Marquis' arguments is one of those arguments that opposes that. So, in conclusion, both Thompson and Marquis' arguments present very, very strong, thoughtful arguments in the ethics of abortion. Thompson defends the arguments by putting the mother first, in my opinion, in real life situations where pregnancy may not be unwanted or sometimes pregnancy can be harmful. And Marquise, on the other hand, opposes abortion by focusing on the value, or I'm sorry, the value of the fetus's future, saying abortion takes away everything that life could become. In my opinion, I feel like that's a very weak argument because that's what a lot of people say, but once, and I do understand what some people say when they say that, oh, this baby could grow up to be the next president, this baby could grow up to be the next person that we send off to space, whatever. But sucks to say, but at least 7 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, the babies that are born of today, granted, they turn out smart, they turn out amazing, but we don't know what they're going to be until they are that. And the same way they could be the president of the United States, they could be a reincarnation of Adolf Hitler. They could be a reincarnation of Donald Trump. They could be they could be just as bad, but just as good, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, I feel like the value of the future's fetus and everything, yes, I do believe that children deserve to live. But if you're going to talk about a clump of cells, then in my opinion, the mother's life matters more. And with that being said, I do thank you guys for listening to my recording. Thank you.